Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys all had a good week and good Thanksgiving. Haven't been on in a couple weeks. Uh, just wanted to wish you all good holidays. I know everybody's going through the hustle and bustle now of Christmas shopping and holiday shopping. So I was going to talk about a really important topic today. This is a topic that you guys picked. It's chronic fatigue or just fatigue in general. So I'm titling this, "Why Am I Always Tired?" And a lot of people suffer from this, and I figured it would be a good topic. And a lot of people reached out to me asking me to, go over my protocols and how I approach treating and diagnosing fatigue. It's can be a complicated diagnosis. Good morning, Nelson. How are you, buddy? And it's something that you come across almost every day in practice, especially in nutrition practices. People are always saying that, I just feel always tired or washed out, or I have no energy. I come home and I just plop down and I have no motivation or energy to do anything at all. So I just wanted to give a little short discussion today on how I approach treating this. So let's talk about fatigue. Well, fatigue is just a feeling of overwhelming exhaustion. So, and there is a clinical diagnosis called chronic fatigue, and then the other name of it is myalgic encephalitis, because a lot of people suffer with also, when they have fatigue, a lot of muscle aches, and they found that there is a connection between the gut and the brain, and a lot of people suffering from fatigue. This is the one that I found the most interesting, so I'm going to spend a little extra time on this morning. And what is the characteristics of fatigue? Low energy, low motivation, muscle soreness. A lot of people also suffer from bowel issues, irritable bowel syndromes, difficulty concentrating. They drop things often. So if these are other symptoms that go along with just being tired. Good morning, Rachel. And I just wanted to go over now the gut-brain connection. So this is really interesting. Hey, good morning, Paul. As you know, I always talk about the gut all the time. Almost every one of my talks involves the gut in some way. Now, your intestines are so important for two reasons. One, they are responsible for the focus of nutrients, for the absorption of nutrients in your body. And so you have this really vascular network of blood vessels that surround the bowels. And there's a barrier between the bowels and the bloodstream. So when you eat food, the way it gets into your cells is through the bloodstream, right? There's a connection to that, and things that carry nutrients and get absorbed, like water gets absorbed through your bowels, food, vitamins, minerals, protein, carbs, all of these things go through your gastrointestinal system and get absorbed through the intestines. And your body has a mechanism for kind of filtering what gets back and forth and prevents things from getting into the bloodstream. This is critically important. I like that one, Paul. Thank you. This is critically important because when you have defects in this filtration system, good morning, Joe. Look forward to seeing you tonight. When you have defects in this filtration system, your body is going to get things into the bloodstream that aren't necessarily supposed to be there. So there's this gut connection. The second important function of the bowels are that 80% of your immune system and your immune cells, which are in these patches of lymphatic and immune patches in your bowels that produce all of your immune responses. So typically, the way we get germs, right, is through the GI tract. You touch something, you put your hands in your mouth, so germs are going through your system. It's sensed a lot of times through the blood, but also through the gut. And then your body produces antibodies for things that you have been in contact with before. So the gut, we also know, is very important for your immune system function as well. So almost every person that comes to see me, my questions are very focused towards gut health. They may be suffering from fatigue, but do you have other symptoms? Do you have, irritable bowel syndrome, food sensitivities, constipation, diarrhea, all of these things. So that's the focus, because there's a connection between your gut, your intestines, and your brain. There's lots of signals that get sent back and forth. And that's the reason why I'm talking about the gut when we're dealing with fatigue, right? Fatigue, we know, is going to be something in the brain, like this mental exhaustion, this feeling of like, I just don't have the energy. Why don't I have energy anymore? And some of it is uh, just overworked, too little sleep, which I'm going to talk about. Good morning, Liz. And we were exposed to so many different things, viruses and bacteria, and Paul mentioned viral hijacking of cells. There's so many millions and millions of viruses out there, and we only know a handful that we test for. So it's really important, and we know that viruses we don't have treatments for example, right? We'll talk about Epstein-Barr virus in a little while, but so our body really does, we don't have mechanisms for destroying these viruses, with medications. Antiviral medications don't really work very well. They have a lot of effects on the body that can be toxic. So the best bet of it, fighting yeast, bacteria, and viruses is through a healthy immune system and a healthy gut. Good morning, Paula. Good morning, Dad. I have a special guest for you over here that wants to say hi to everybody. Come over here, my little princess. This is my little princess, Angelina, who wanted to be on live today. And she wanted to say hi to Poppy. Say hi to Poppy.
Hi, Poppy.
I love you.
We're pooping.
She's making her list for Santa. So, this gut-brain connection and this healthy gut is critical to almost any of the diagnoses that I talk about. So let's talk a little bit about leaky gut syndrome. So when I was talking about this connection between the bloodstream and the bowels, there's something called leaky gut syndrome, and you have this membrane of cells that protects toxins, bacteria, and food, actually, even food traces, from getting into the bloodstream, right? So think of your bowels and your bloodstream as two distinct tubes running together, but touching one another, right? But there should be, and then there's a barrier between those two that acts as a sieve that will filter what should get in and out of the bloodstream. This is critically important. Good morning, Galifi. I told you I would give you a shout out. I look forward to seeing you tonight. So this leaky gut allows bacteria to go into the bloodstream. So there's these cells that line the gut that are the housekeepers, let's say, or the protectors. And when there's gaps, you get bacteria, you get food particles, you can get viruses, you can get yeast, all of these things that go from the gut into the bloodstream. Now, these are not things that should be in the bloodstream, so they can make you sick. Now, these things could go now and attack the brain and other organs. Good morning, Jamie. So what kind of things, cause this? Now, the biggest, pay attention, culprit of this, of causing these gaps, is gluten, and specifically man-made gluten. I stand on my soapbox a lot about, genetically modified foods. I can't tell you how important it is to eat non-GMO foods. Almost everything that you eat should not be genetically modified. Many countries have banned genetically modified foods. There's a big push to ban them in this country as well. So it's really, really important to get foods that are not genetically modified. There's a big difference between eating organic gluten and or gluten that's genetically modified. That's why you don't almost see no gluten sensitivities in Italy, because they've banned GMOs. And I'll give you an example. A lot of my clients that they think they're gluten sensitive, or they know they've been gluten sensitive for years, I switched them to organic wheat products, and they don't have any problems. Even I've had people that they haven't eaten pasta for years. They say try organic pasta, and they try organic pasta, and they are fine with it. It's because there's an alteration in the wheat molecule, and that the genetically modified particles are modified to resist dying from pesticides. So these foods are they spray the crap out of them, for lack of a better word, with pesticides. So there's tons of pesticides in genetically modified foods because they're meant to be grown. They don't die, so the weeds die and everything else dies, but the plant doesn't die. But just think about what that's doing to your immune system. So gluten's the big culprit of causing this leaky gut syndrome. So what happens is these bacteria, these toxins get to the brain. And in fact, when they did imaging studies of the brain, they found that there's remarkable differences in people who have chronic fatigue or suffer from, fatigue all the time. Maybe they don't have a diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome, but their brains actually look different in scans. And I'm just going to highlight some of those. There was decreases in brain white matter. They saw chronic inflammation, and then they saw defects in the area that connects your frontal lobe and your temporal lobes over here, which deal with like how you function, how your brain processes information, thinking, and deep thought. All of these things are affected by this leaky gut syndrome. So this is hugely important in treating this. So the first thing when somebody comes to me with fatigue, that's Angelina showing her work. She wants to be I guess on a TV star someday, right, Angelina? Thanks. Thank you, sweetheart. You're making my talk so much more interesting. So first thing is the gut. Second thing is sleep. So an accurate sleep history. How many hours are you sleeping? And not only how many hours are you sleeping, but what's the quality of your sleep? Are you waking up frequently during the middle of the night? Are you snoring? Are you dreaming? Do you remember your dreams? Don't you remember when you were a kid, or even, in your 20s, that, had these crazy vivid dreams, and you woke up and you remembered your dreams, or the next morning you were able to talk about, wow, I had some crazy dreams last night for Poppy. And thank So the quality of your sleep is hugely, hugely important. And if you're not remembering your dreams, or you're not dreaming at all, then you're not getting into REM sleep. And REM sleep is what restores and refreshes your brain. So if you don't have REM sleep, you're not going to feel refreshed in the morning. So sleep is hugely important. And I have some really great therapies for sleep that I've just discovered that people are now dreaming. There's some dietary things you could do, like avoiding caffeine and avoid eating late at night. And so when you consult with me, I take a detailed sleep history. We talk about all the things that could be preventing you from being well rested. Fatigue is just such a general symptom. I mean, if you look up fatigue, you probably find 1,000 diagnoses. So it's really important to really dig down and figure out what's causing this fatigue. So gut health and sleep are numbers 1 and 2. Other things I look for are vitamin deficiencies. Are you getting enough vitamins, specifically B vitamins, vitamin D3, your minerals, selenium, magnesium? All of these are critically important, because what do vitamins do? Vitamins are critical to in the pathways. In every cell, you have what's called a mitochondria. The mitochondria is what produces cells energy. Within the energy in cells it's something called ATP. So every single cell in your body has mitochondria in it and needs an energy source. So these vitamins and minerals are critical for the pathways that convert sugar, protein, and fats into ATP, or energy. So if you have vitamin deficiencies, you can't produce energy on a cellular level. And a lot of you have heard about the genetic testing that I'm doing. Good morning, Xavier. Thank you for joining me. The genetic testing that I do tests for the genetic deficiencies in some of these cellular pathways. And it also, knowing these cellular pathways, if you know biochemistry, looking at how toxins and how things in your environment affect these pathways as well, like mercury. If you look at mercury and how it disrupts, the cellular production of energy, it attacks it in multiple areas. So if you have mercury fillings in your mouth, very, very important. Heavy metal toxicity is something that very rarely tested for, but it's a simple hair test that you could do, where you take, the roots of your hair, about an inch. We send it away. Test costs about $50, and you can test for your heavy metal burden. Now, mercury is the big one. Mercury is found in dental fillings. The big one for mercury is also fish. So if you're eating big fish, like a lot of tuna, canned tuna, a lot of sushi, shark, things, big gaming fish. They're loaded with mercury, so they should really be avoided and only eaten very rarely. Better fish choices would be salmon, especially specifically wild salmon and flounder and sea bass and anchovies, the smaller fish. So it's important to stay away from mercury and know what your heavy metal burden is. I can't tell you how many people that suffer from fatigue. And one of the questions they ask, you eat a lot of sushi? And they're like, yeah, I eat sushi like twice a week. Well, what do you eat? Well, I eat tuna, salmon. Well, if you're eating that much tuna, you probably have a mercury issue. So again, the mechanism is on a cellular level. So it's very scientific. Mercury inhibits energy production in the cells. So it's important to test for, heavy metals and then all your vitamins that are critical to energy production. Hormone deficiencies, I'm just going to touch on because I have videos on each one of the hormone deficiencies. And so testosterone for men, progesterone for women, DHEA, which is an adrenal hormone. I haven't spoken much about adrenals, but I am going to speak about that soon. The adrenals are what produce, obviously, adrenaline, but they also produce your DHEA, which gets converted to all your other hormones, and specifically testosterone in women and a small percentage of testosterone in men. So, and your adrenals also produce something called cortisol, which is a damaging and unhealthy hormone. So the health of your adrenal glands is critically important when you treat fatigue. So, I have some great therapies for adrenal fatigue as well. Thyroid, which you can catch my video. I have a whole 45-minute video on thyroid, on how to diagnose it. Thyroid is huge. A lot of thyroid conditions go undiagnosed because the proper tests aren't ordered. So that's a really important one. Food allergy testing is very important. So if you're allergic to some foods, again, it triggers toxins and allergic reactions that can affect your brain. You can get allergy testing through the blood. You could do it through the skin, but I like doing it through diet, which I'm going to discuss in a while. You should get your blood cell counts tested. Another thing, going back to thyroid, is getting iodine levels tested. A lot of people are on low salt diets who have switched to sea salt or Himalayan salt, which I use. But if you're not eating regular table salt, which you don't get me wrong, you shouldn't be doing, you may have to supplement iodine. You may have to make sure that your multivitamin mineral contains iodine, or you can get iodine drops. It's 1 or 2 drops in your food every day. Iodine is critical for your thyroid health. So if your thyroid's not functioning properly, you could just be deficient in iodine. That's important. So that's really my workup. It could be quite extensive on, and then I'm sorry, I forgot my last most critical one. So the last piece is infections. So I'm going to spend a little time on infections. Chronic Lyme disease or Lyme disease has gone undiagnosed. There's Candida, which is a yeast that typically resides in your bowel. That's another huge one. Mycoplasma, which is another type of, it's a bacteria that can cause fatigue, easily tested in the blood, but very rarely tested. You have Epstein-Barr virus, which is also a big culprit. I'm just checking my notes to see if I missed any. So those are the infectious workouts, and you don't want to discount infectious causes of fatigue. Lyme disease is one of the biggest undiagnosed disorders or chronic diseases. For years, 10, 15 years ago, we were talking about patients that have chronic Lyme disease, and many doctors still to this day discount, well, Lyme disease isn't a chronic illness. You have Lyme disease, you treat it, it goes away. And that's not true, because if you look at, Lyme disease, good morning, Juliet. Good morning. How are you, Julie? So if Lyme disease is a spirochete. A spirochete is a type of bacteria that's spiral shaped. Another famous spirochete is syphilis. And if you look at syphilis, syphilis has 3 stages. It has an acute stage, it has a stage where it hides, and then has a chronic stage. And it's the exact same type of bacteria. Spirochetes are notorious for evading an immune system. So Lyme disease is very difficult to diagnose, very difficult to treat. So you need to go to somebody who's familiar with diagnosing this. Yeah, Julie, you're going to really want to rewind and catch the replay of this, because it's really important for people with fatigue to get this worked up. Lyme disease is a huge culprit of fatigue, of muscle pain, of brain fog, of a lot of different, it's called the great masquerader Lyme disease, just like syphilis was. So it could mimic a lot of other diseases. So very important in the workup is to include, Lyme disease workup. The other one, which I believe I talked about in my bowel, is Candida. Yeast is huge, and yeast is another culprit of leaky gut syndrome. And when you have yeast in your gut, it actually sends signals to your brain for you to crave sugar, which is remarkable. When I first learned about that, I was just intrigued by that. So the yeast is living in your bowel, and the yeast needs sugar to survive. It'll actually send signals to your brain, to the craving center, and cause you to want to eat carbs. So if you're a carb addict and you crave carbs, you need to get this stool test to check to see if you have any yeast issues. So how do we fix this, right? So depending on what I find in my nutritional and analysis and my history, there's some fixes. The first thing I have people do dietarily is avoid gluten. So if you have symptoms of leaky gut, you got to get rid of gluten in your diet. And at the very least, you have to get rid of genetically modified gluten. You have to increase your fiber in your diet if you have leaky gut. Probiotics are the key to almost every chronic illness. So if you're not taking probiotics, you should consider it. Even if you don't have symptoms, it's critical for your immune health. Probiotics are, just one of the few things. I don't recommend a lot of supplements. Good morning, Karen. How are you? A lot of these supplements, like people I see taking 40, 50, 60 vitamins a day. You should get your vitamins from food mostly, but there are certain things I think that everybody should take every day. 1 is a probiotic, and 2 is vitamin D. And then there are others, but in general, there's a lot of vitamins in foods and minerals in foods. Getting your vitamins and minerals from foods are critical, and that's why you're working with a nutritionist or somebody who really knows, how to find nutritional deficiencies is so important. But if you're going to choose 2 supplements to take, everybody should be on a probiotic. Everybody should be on vitamin D. Fermented foods. So, fermented foods are things that, promote healthy gut health. So things like pickles, olives, sauerkraut, homemade yogurt, and fermented cheeses are great. Parmesan cheese is a fermented cheese. So these cheeses and fermented foods help a healthy gut. Also, apple cider vinegar is awesome for gut health. If you don't do it, you should take a shot of apple cider vinegar. I have a little cocktail that I made up that includes lemon juice, a little bit of cinnamon, some water, and apple cider vinegar, and a great way to start your morning. Some other things that aren't tested but are critical for fatigue. One is CoQ10, which is one, and D-ribose and glutathione. Those are the 3 that are. And it's funny because when you learn biochemistry as a doctor, you think that I'm never going to use this stuff again. I'm just going to get past this course, and I'm going to just I'm just going to get past this course, and I'm never going to use it again. And now I'm finding I use more biochemistry that I learned in medical school more than almost anything else that I've learned. especially in nutrition, because all of these, good morning, Jack, all of these vitamins and minerals are critical for energy production in every single cell in your body. So your muscle cells, your brain cells, your heart cells need a source of energy. And if you're deficient in vitamins and minerals, or you have a genetic defect in some of these pathways, you're going to be deficient in energy on a cellular level. So it's so critically important to know these things. So the three things, good morning, Christine and Shane and Edwin. So it's critical, for these things. So D-ribose is a building block of ATP. Glutathione, which clears the mitochondria of toxins. Glutathione plays a huge role in autism. And CoQ10, which is found in almost every cell. It's CoQ10. It's called ubiquinone. Is the name of CoQ10. Ubiquitous means it's found everywhere, right? So ubiquinone means CoQ10 is found in every single cell. CoQ10 is you can actually test CoQ10 levels, but it's a great supplement. If you're on a statin drugs deplete CoQ10. So if you're on Lipitor or Crestor or one of these other, or if you have a loved one or a family member that's on Lipitor or a cholesterol drug, critical to, you should, don't even test, automatically be on CoQ10. And a lot of people on statins are deficient in CoQ10, so it depletes it. And a lot of people on statins are suffering from fatigue as well and muscle soreness. So it's really, really critically important to take CoQ10 and include it in your regimen if you're on a statin drug. How do we increase glutathione? So you can take glutathione orally. It doesn't work. You can do it IV. There's some places that do IV glutathione pushes or in an IV drip. Excuse me. But you can increase glutathione naturally. There are some creams you can use too. Broccoli and cruciferous vegetables, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, kale, and cabbage. Those are all great vegetables to increase glutathione. Animal foods, organic animal foods, farm-raised, eggs, organic meats, chicken, turkey, these are all rich in selenium, which is really another thing that if you look at the biochemistry, and eventually when I figure out the technology of putting some charts up here during Facebook Live, if you looked at a chart of the biochemistry inside the cell, you'll see all of these things like folic acid, B12, selenium, magnesium, and then there's all the disruptors. So the disruptors are chemicals that were found, like plastics and mercury, like I spoke of before. Aluminum is a key disruptor of cellular metabolism. Aluminum, just think about aluminum. We put food in aluminum and then warm it up. Aluminum has a very low melting point. When you cook with aluminum, if you use nonstick cookware and you cook with aluminum, you are basically cooking the aluminum into your food and ingesting it. Underarm deodorants, actually antiperspirants, are loaded with aluminum, especially women. Women, they shave their underarms, and good morning, Matt. So women shave their underarms, and then so they're compromising the protective layer there. And I'm not promoting not shaving your underarms, ladies, but you're using aluminum then right away in raw skin. You're using a deodorant that gets into your bloodstream. It's a big known cause of Alzheimer's. So you got to avoid aluminum as much as you can. Avoid nonstick cookware. Use stainless steel or copper pans, or even cast iron, ceramic. So there's a lot of other options out there. Don't cook with aluminum foil, and avoid aluminum-based deodorants and antiperspirants. So there are some natural ones available. Good morning, Stacy. So these are all the things that that you have to do. So other things, milk thistle, which is known for purifying and helping the liver. So milk thistle is something else that you could do for toxins. Turmeric and cinnamon. Turmeric or curcumin is a great natural anti-inflammatory. It's great for any and all inflammatory conditions, which are most Um, Most of diseases that we face in America are inflammatory conditions. So that's one. Brazil nuts and sunflower seeds can also raise glutathione levels. So glutathione is, think of the glutathione as the sanitation department of your cells. So if your body cannot make or generate glutathione, then you're going to have a buildup in toxins. And interestingly enough, there's so many studies out there. And again, this I have to thank Dr. David Dornfeld for, who's taught me so much, is that, autism is, there's a deficiency and a problem with the MTHFR gene. And this gene is responsible for glutathione production. And so you have these toxin builds up and then and aluminum and all these things, mercury, and that's what it's affecting the brain. And, I posted something the other day, we're seeing an epidemic of autism, and down the road I will do something on autism. But, it's from the toxins in the environment. Genetic diseases don't increase in number. It's not like we have, autistic kids that are reproducing in numbers and producing an autistic population. It just, it doesn't make any sense. It has to be environmental, but it's environmental, and also there are genetic defects and mutations spontaneously also caused by chemicals that are, that are poisoning our children's brains. So it's so important, to pay attention to what you put into your body. So other things. So treating infections, right? We spoke about the infectious causes. I have a lot of natural treatments for Lyme disease. A lot of times you do have to use antibiotics, but you have other viruses like Epstein-Barr. If you have mycoplasma, there are natural, therapies. I mentioned before, turmeric is one of them, but there are a lot of natural anti-inflammatories and antiviral agents. So yeah, Jill, genetics are the gun, and the environment is the trigger, and that's so critical, Jill, and so profound what you said, and I say that all the time. If you have the genetic makeup, the environment and the foods are the key, and that's, I do offer this genetic test, and if you have the time, it's not super expensive. It's something that almost everybody should do. You need to know what your genetics are. We test for the MTHFR gene. We test for the gene for aluminum tendency for Alzheimer's, which will make it more important for you to avoid aluminum. So it's important to do these types of things and to find out what your genetics are. And so you need to eat for your genetics. Probiotics are also, so if you have any kind of yeast or bacteria or viruses, having a healthy gut, your body will kill these things on its own. So keeping a healthy gut is key. Correcting hormone deficiencies, right? Correcting testosterone. There's ways of correcting testosterone naturally, especially if you're younger. Growth hormone. I have some great new growth hormone treatments that are available. Some of you I've reached out to and talked to you about. There's a new gel that's out that's fantastic. Helps with sleep, helps regulate growth hormone levels, but you need to get your growth hormone levels checked. It's checked through IGF-1. I check anybody who I have on the growth hormone gel. I'd like to do pre and post. If they come to me as a nutrition client, I do pre and post IGF-1 levels, and I'm seeing increasing levels in IGF-1, which means increased growth hormone. Growth hormone is also critical for your immune system function, and more importantly, sleep. Good morning, Annalisa and Janice. Thanks for joining me. Food allergy diet. Like I said, you don't have to go for expensive food allergy testing, and a lot of food allergy testing only tests for IgE and IgA, which is the type of food allergy that causes just a rash. But there are food allergies that cause behavioral changes, gut changes, which is an IgG modified, an AGG responsible immune function response. So it's that testing is usually not covered by insurance. Sometimes it is, but you can get around that by doing what's called an elimination diet. So typically, if you're a client of mine, I start everybody off with a detox. We eliminate gluten, we eliminate dairy, we eliminate sugar, we eliminate all the high allergy foods, fruits in particular, and other foods. And then as we go on, almost, people will start feeling better, and then we add foods one at a time. So we'll add back beans, we'll add back rice, then we'll add back dairy. And as soon as you see these symptoms come back, we know what the culprit is. So it's really not that difficult to figure out what your food sensitivities are, especially since you're going to be you're going to be basically listing foods that you like to eat all the time. So, it's kind of easy to figure out what you're allergic to. Stacy, is this done in the office? If you saw my post, I will be seeing patients probably once a week in the beginning on Saturdays in Colts Neck, New Jersey. Eventually down the line, maybe Staten Island, looking for a location, probably my brother and my sister-in-law, who are both nurse practitioners, and we're going to have some great wellness stuff. In New Jersey, I'm with a great young, dynamic chiropractor, Robert Dugo, who is just, really great doctor and, really great mind in nutrition. He is a big believer in all the things that I believe in. So we're going to be doing some of these testings and therapies in the office. So yes. And for those of you out there that don't live nearby, I do, most of my consulting is done on private video chats through Zoom or over the phone. So anybody who's out there that, doesn't live nearby, we surely can help you out. And it's very easy to get. A lot of times we'll work with your physician to get a lot of these testings done. And so, just because you don't live nearby doesn't mean we can't help you. So, getting back to this, correcting food allergy diet, correcting vitamin deficiencies, which we could do through blood testing and genetic testing. And then the last thing is, and you can catch my video on intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is a key to immune function, helping immune function and combating fatigue, because it actually works on this gut-brain connection by kind of keying down the bowel on when it's when it has to function and getting the bowel healthy. So when you're not eating in the morning, you're replenishing probiotics, you're eating fermented foods, you're setting up the gut for health, and then during the middle of the day, during your feeding times, you're eating, and your gut is functioning and absorbing nutrients, doing what it has to do, and then your gut is given a chance to rest again. So that's another reason why intermittent fasting is key. Good morning, Carmela. So, these are the things that you could do. May not necessarily have chronic fatigue syndrome, but how many people out there are tired, right? How many people don't feel the energy levels that they feel that they should have? What I want you to get from this is it doesn't have to be that way. Come see us, come see me, come consult with me online, come see me in 2019 in Dr. Dugo in Colts Neck. And we can help you. You can be the best that you could be. You could be healthy. You could do it without expensive or harmful medications, and you could live a healthy life and, and have the energy to do things with your family, not have to come home and feel tired every day. It may take some time, but most of the time we get people to where they need to be. And, just be conscious of what you put in your body, and, I just want to thank everybody for all your wonderful comments. Again, I can't tell you how much they mean to me. I can't tell you how much, all the little notes that I get from people and the people that tell me they're waiting for these talks. It's really humbling and I really appreciate it. Again, I if you come see me, my prices are affordable. I don't rip people off because I do this because I love it. I don't do this to make money. I do it for the love of helping people. And I feel it's an important thing to, get this message out and to make it affordable for people. And I just, again, thank you for all your support. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you again in next Saturday or in a couple of Saturdays. Again, reach out to me with any questions and like my Facebook page and Instagram pages. And I'll see you all again real soon. Have a happy and healthy weekend.